And a very good evening, everybody, and welcome to our Thursday night discussion on aspects of spiritualism. Great pleasure to introduce a absolutely lovely, beautiful soul, and very honoured to say a friend of mine, the lovely Ashley Oliver. Ashley, good evening to you.
Hi, how are you doing? It's my pleasure to be here and really lovely to be this side so I can just relax and let you take the reins this evening, Laurie. So thank you for inviting me. It's a real pleasure.
Absolute pleasure. It is, isn't it? We are so used to being mine host. When we are our actual guests, it's sort of like carry on. How wonderful. Anyway, enough of the waffle. Aspects of spiritualism, very, very, very big topic, obviously. Ashley, the reason I've invited you along tonight is because I've worked alongside of you, absolute privilege to do so. Seen you working both within the church here at Poole and your own church down in Weymouth. And you're born and bred spiritualist, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. I guess I'm one of those some say lucky, probably definitely chose it. So yeah, I was born and brought up in spiritualism. We actually, in fact, it was I was just reflecting as I was kind of waiting to come on that one of my earliest memories is we lived in a really beautiful part of Wiltshire in the middle of the country. We lived in this lovely 16th century farmhouse, and one of my earliest memories is on Thursday nights there being this fever pitch in our house that it was all kind of building to circle happening on a Thursday night. And I remember from even a really, really young age, just the feeling of discipline and respect and kind of sacred anticipation of that moment when you can sit in a closed circle and you kind of feel the presence of your spirit guides around. And I remember being ushered up to bed and hearing just everyone talking downstairs on that moment of hush just before you go into circle and you kind of close the door and start working. So for me, this has been something I've always had. In fact, those circles, I kind of remember the Lord's Prayer and I remember the songs that were being sung. And in actual fact, when it was then my turn to be circle leader and be invited into circle by my parents when I was a teenager, I knew the songs that were going to be on the cassette tape. It shows how long ago it was that you kind of anticipate which song was playing before the cassette tape popped up. And so you anticipate hitting it. And it's all of these little gems that I kind of remember, and being named in a spiritualist church and remembering the wooden paneling and the people doing healing and just all of the lovely memories that I had growing up in spiritualism. So yeah, I'm very, very fortunate that I was surrounded by books and had my lovely mum there who I could ask all of my weird and wacky questions to about faith and religion and spiritualism and all of those questions that no one ever normally gives you an answer to when you're a child. I was very fortunate to be able to have my mum there, and piles of amazing books from all of our pioneers as well lying about the house. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It is very empowering. My parents came into spiritualism when I was probably about 7 or 8. So we didn't have home circles then, but they were straight in involved with the church in its prior location to here. So I was brought up in a similar energy, not so full on as yours, but yeah, because you were allowed to ask questions and you weren't told you're being silly.
Yeah.
You know, if you experience something, it wasn't, no, you've been daft. It's like, well, what was it?
Absolutely. And I think for me as well, because for those people that don't know me, they obviously know me from the church and know me from circle, but actually I'm a really introverted person, really deeply introverted. And when I was a child, I also had I saw the world differently, and I now realize as an adult that I kind of have a different operating system running, and so I see the world and feel the world and experience it differently. And so for me, my intuitive self, as in being intuition, was really strong, because I came to realize really quickly as a child that what I was seeing and what I was feeling in my heart space and in my intuition was different to the message I was getting from people. And then that dissonance was really upsetting for a really long while. And so I kind of turned the dial down on what I was seeing with my physical eyes and people were saying to me, and they were kind of, I was experiencing the physical world, and turned up the dial on my intuition, because that was easier for me, an easier conversation. And now I realize the relationship with my own higher self-awareness, my spirit guides, my spirit team, got stronger. It was like a muscle that got worked an awful lot, primarily because it was like having a best friend there sat at the bus stop to say, I don't understand why she said that, because that's not what I'm feeling. Somebody there to say, well, why do you think she may have said that? Have you noticed what else is going on here? Teaching me to read the energy, teaching me to kind of interact with this material world in a way that me as a really sensitive soul could kind of navigate a really soft path through it. It wasn't always easy, and people seem to have this impression that because you're intuitive and mediumistic that you know when everything's going to happen, and it just doesn't work like that, because otherwise it takes all of the fun out of this experience. And I call it fun because I'm not in it, but it takes the learning opportunities away from us. I call it opening your Christmas presents. Spirit never like to open your Christmas presents for you.
Yeah, very, very true. Again, similar vein to me, but I didn't have that awareness of the spirit world so great at that age. So actually I was a very introverted child, which I know hard to believe nowadays, but I didn't join in with things because I just wasn't comfortable. Now, as an adult, I look back and think, yeah, I know what was going on. I didn't understand that at that age. But like you say, though, we don't, people do think, oh, it must be wonderful to keep talking to spirit. Well, we don't keep talking to spirit. We talk to spirit as and when. And no, we're not privy to things coming up because we're all here on a journey. So, if somebody starts giving us a destination all the time, what's the point of being on the journey? Very true.
Absolutely. And I think we kind of need to remember that the really famous quote that we're spirits in a human form, we're spiritual beings, have a human experience. And actually that is the reason. I believe that is the reason why we're here and why we're doing it. It's to experience, for a drop of divinity, to experience what it's like to walk around in a human body for a short period of time, to fully experience that. And so if that is the reason why we're here, why would spirit take that away from us, take that opportunity away from us? Because we're not going to learn anything by doing that. It's just down to us how quickly we can switch on to what's actually happening, and how short we can make those cycles in the spiral, how long we're going to kind of sit in it. So yeah, it's easy to say, gosh, it's easy to say that. When I was in the depths of it, you don't see it like that. You don't see it like that at all.
No, I remember one spectacular falling out with spirit where I'm not ashamed to say it. Everything had just gone disastrously wrong. And I went, that's it. I don't believe in you anymore. Go away. Leave me alone. I've done all this for you, and this is what you're, doing to me. And we have to work through that, don't we? We have to work through those experiences, because we've got to remember as well to use our knowledge and understanding of spiritualism to help us through these times. And sometimes we do need a little break away. It's like, your best friend. Sometimes you just need a distance just for a while to sort of like regroup yourself and go, right, hold on. Yeah, I am beginning to pick up on why now the heat of that moment's gone, because we are human, first and foremost. We are human, and we do have fuses, some long, some short. But when you are particularly going through those horrendous times in our life, and I don't mean, they've written out your favorite character on Corrie or anything like that. I mean the real hard, cold morning of the soul type times. But spiritualism as a religion, as a philosophy, as a belief, whichever label we want to give it, is there. It's able to help us. But when we are in that right mind, that right frame of mind to approach it, because sometimes the animal side just takes over and we just fly off the handle.
Yeah, I think I'm going to feel into this. I'm going to feel into it. So for me, my spiritualist faith and the framework that like I said, I was lucky enough to kind of have there as some points of reference, something to kind of hang your hat on for a little while, just to steer you through those really tender parts of growing up and as you're shaping and forming your character. I just kind of feel that spiritualism, in its truest essence, hasn't fallen prey to something that Andrew Harvey talks about, which is the curse of the New Age, which is the space of anything you want can be given to you. There is no effort required. You ask and it's given. Spiritualism actually doesn't give you an easy ride out of it. It doesn't give you an easy ride. It doesn't spiritual bypass your way out of it. It's not let go, let God, and then send it up to God and it will all be sorted out. It very much in its core is there is a balance, and that has to be maintained in the world. And so for somebody like me who thought in very black and white terms, that was great and really logical and straightforward, and it made sense scientifically, it made sense energetically, everything about it made complete and utter sense. I wasn't absolving my power and giving my power away to somebody else to solve my problems for me. So I think there's an awful lot I know there's an awful lot to offer. And I think the refreshing thing for me is so many people involved in the movement at the moment that I'm seeing and experiencing and hearing on some of these amazing church services being broadcast, is that there are people who aren't afraid to dive into the depths and talk about the dark night of the soul, and to talk about having these existential crisis where actually we're prepared to walk away from our faith, and talk about that blending of the psycho-spiritual. People like Suzette and Adam Berry, and there's just so many amazing people that we've both kind of seen working over this summer that are coming to the fore during this time of crisis and grasping the nettle and saying, the reason why faith works is because it offers you something in the times when you need it most. And I'm kind of I'm thinking about that, the Footsteps poem. I only saw one set of footsteps in the sand when I was at my lowest ebb, and that's when Spirit say, yeah, because you didn't have the strength and we carried you. Yeah. So it's there for both. It's there for everything. It's there when you're in your highest energy, your most connected energy, and you feel as if your intuition is working beautifully and you're able to develop your gift and reach out and support other people. And it's also there for you in the times when you think, why is this happening? I have no idea what's going on, and I'm confused and lonely and scared. It's got to be able to do both. And I think that's, for me, the interesting thing is exploring all of those stories in all of the different faith paths where you can find that, because that at the root of it is what people are searching for. I do believe that is what people are searching for, that sense of connectedness and exploring what it is to be human. It's got to be that.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And no matter what faith path people choose to go along, absolutely great. I always say same light, different window. And it is true. But as spiritualists and spiritualism, some of the things you said there, the magic word, the balance part, that is just so important that we maintain that balance, because we've never ever been challenged en masse by this situation. A lot of us have been through our own times. Myself, in 2000, I ended up having chemo and radiotherapy. That was one of my very challenging times of, do I give up? Do I go on? What do I do? What's going on? I have no idea, but you get through it. But now, as a collective consciousness, there is a lot of fear, a lot of anguish, and perfectly understandable. A lot of grief, which is, again, perfectly natural. But there's also a lot of searching and a lot of inquisitiveness, because we were in a sort of a stupor before all this happened. It was get up, eat breakfast, go to work, come home, watch telly, go to bed, and repeat. And we never really sort of investigated things deeply. The idea of spiritualism was a night of mediumship somewhere, be it in a bar, a club, or a church. And I'm not denouncing those, but that was it. But now people are looking into all faiths, and spiritualism included, for answers of, well, is this really it? Is when I shut my eyes for the last time, is that it? Do I just disappear? And of course, we know, and we're blessed that we can give the evidence to people that know that far from it. When you close your eyes and reopen them, you will be more alive than you are at this time. You will be free of all these physical burdens, the need for money, the need for food, the need for shelter, the need, it's a very needy life, this physical existence, isn't it? We need a lot just to be without even moving. But within spiritualism, there's a lot of wonderful teaching. One thing I really like with spiritualism is there's no set sort of dogma or creed. It's very open for you to explore, because we are all individual. There is no two people identical on this planet who have the same thoughts, same journeys, same trials, tribulations, joys, whatever. So we all do explore, but we are sticking to the basics of balance. We are being brought back in line, I believe, for the laws of nature and the laws of spirit, because, we are part of this world.
Yeah.
We're not masters of it. And I keep saying this, but I won't apologize, because it is a very entrenched attitude with people. People say, "Oh, this can't happen. It's 2020." Well, sorry, that's got what to do with it? Oh, absolutely nothing. The last great pandemic, I'm sure people were saying, "Well, this can't happen. It's 1918." The Great Plague, I'm sure people were saying then, "Well, this can't happen. It's 1748." But it does, because we are all connected, and this is the message that we really, really need to pick up and run with, because the longer we keep abusing, if any of us at home watching, if you had a guest in your house that continually abused your hospitality, are you going to sit there and put up with it, or sooner or later are you going to do something about it? Interesting question, because we here on this world, and we are a lot of people are really trying to do their best, and more power to their elbow. But there is still this entrenched commercialism, materialism that drives wanton destruction and pollution. And for what? So we get 17 choices of washing up liquid on the shelf. We need to wake up. And for me, through spiritualism at this time, my religion has strengthened and it's changed. One of the interesting things I've found, and I'll ask you if you've had the similar, is my perception and understanding of that which we call God, because that really has changed over the last 6 months. And it's been very challenging, but good.
Yeah.
What about yourself?
Yeah. Yes and no. Yes.
Oh, yeah,
yes,
no, that's fine.
and yes and no, in all honesty, because I've always had a deep fascination with, and I told you I was a very particular child. I was quite a mythic child. I was into archetypes and stories, and my understanding of the world I gained through story, and I gained through hearing other people's stories, and that whole kind of being intuition and listening to my intuition. For me, it was all about asking other people and navigating my understanding of the world by asking people what they see. Does that make sense? So by asking them what they see, I'm able to piece together the world a little bit better. So for me, I've always been the kind of person who's never shied away with going up to somebody and saying, after, I'm not the person to take to a cocktail party, but do you believe in God, and do you pray, and how do you interact with your own spiritual practice? So yes, it has changed, but it's deepened and strengthened. It's become more intimate. It's become more immediate. It's been less about anything which feels patriarchal and more about a co-creational space. So something which a source energy, a flow, that creator, the divine intelligence. However, and I think some of the limitations that we sometimes have in faith, and certainly within this space of inter-spirituality, is trying to use material, physical language, which is very intellectual or very emotional, to describe something which is happening on a deeply energetic level, which is happening on within this ancient part of us that is indescribable. And that's the difficulty that we've got. And also people have been, you know, we talk about these different revolutions and different times we've been through challenge. We've always been through challenge. We went through the agricultural revolution. We've been through the industrial revolution. This feels like we're going through the spiritual revolution, where people are not wanting to link themselves into types of faith that feels very, like you say, dogmatic, and it kind of puts people in boxes and separates people from their experience of the divine. And they're looking for something which feels co-creational, something which talks about things being in balance and things being equal and cause and effect being immediate, as opposed to having to wait until you get to some other place. And it's interesting you talk about the rise of materialism, because that feeds into that directly, because we've been conditioned for such a long time to believe that we are completely individual and you're completely independent, and you can't rely on anyone else, and you've only got yourself to think about, and you've got to look after number one. And that has been the whole ethos that has been gathering ahead of steam for a really long time. And we've got to the space where over this year, through no fault of ours, the entire world has stopped. And we've been forced to say, okay, who else? Not just me, it's who else? Who else is there? And with that is coming this very much, I'm going to say feminine. I don't mean female, and I don't mean women in this space. I'm talking about a feminine, the collective, people coming together and sharing and recognizing the unique contribution that each person makes to this bigger picture, and celebrating diversity. That's definitely a big theme that's happened as well over the summer. And people kind of questioning, and you talk about people waking up, and yeah, lots of people waking up and asking an awful lot of questions, and especially younger people. And I find it really interesting that, you know, you and I have both spoken about this for many, many years. The whole conversation's been about how do we get young people into the churches? We don't have to go and find them. They're coming and they are asking questions, and we've got to be ready to have the answers to give them. So we have got an awful lot of work to do as people running churches and centres and circles and writing books and publishing blog posts and being out there as these thought leaders. We've got a lot of work to do to make sure that we've got answers that satisfy this insatiable energy and desire for knowledge in a spiritual realm. It's really exciting, really exciting.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly again. And I've got no aversion to the terms of feminine energy. You got we refer to Father, Mother, God, because we've got both those energies, because we do to a degree need to humanize some aspects so we can actually get a conceptual grasp of these things. But one of the things when you're working with spirit is they are not human. They are of another realm. And, you know, we want things in a tangible form. Well, sometimes they're not going to come over in that tangible form. I was having a conversation today with somebody, and I said, through mediumship, I said, it can be very difficult because a simple word like rose, if you get the word rose to put over, is that rose or a rose or rose up or rose? And this is starting to get an idea of what it's like working on through spirit, but the energetic level, very much so. We are here on this energetic plane, and we are given these opportunities. We are given these philosophies, these understandings. If you can go along with them, great. Fine. If you can't, absolutely fine. Keep searching until you find the one that resonates with you at this time with your development. But yeah, spiritualism, as well as the other religions, I've got a lot of work ahead, a lot of work, and we've got to learn to coexist as well, which I'm quite pleased. I am seeing some barriers come down slowly. It is going to be a slow process. It's not going to be a revolution. The Ascension, is it the 21st of December? There's the Ascension date. You know, I can understand people being given a lot of information, but I don't understand this thought of, oh, well, everything's going to be fine after that day because, you know, that's the Ascension date and that's when all the new energies come in. Because we are here on this energetic plane, be it physical, mental, or spiritual, and we've got to put that energy in to get that result out. Like, again, going back to the beginning of the conversation. We're not going to be given the destination, but we can certainly use, through spiritualism, through the teachings, through our opening up and our awareness, and I don't mean mediumship of standing on your platform, I mean everyday mediumship, of just knowing when you're talking to somebody that you resonate and you talk and you just open up, and these absolutely amazing things just come forward, and you think, oh, where did that come from? That is everyday mediumship.
Absolutely right. And I mean, one of the great gifts, and you mentioned kind of the interfaith space, and one of the great gifts over the last couple of years as I've been kind of going through this process is not to learn about other faith paths. For me, it's not about that. That is beautiful, and it's a real gift to myself to give myself the time to do that. But to me, the real experience has been solidifying all of the different experiences I've had so far spiritually, in being in that sacred space and being comfortable to be there, because it's very unusual for us. We tend to go to circles, don't we, to develop something, to develop healing, to develop mediumship, to develop tarot card reading, whatever it is you're looking to develop. There is a circle out there to develop it in. But one of the things that I'm experimenting with at the moment and kind of putting out there into the world is creating this space for us to just be, and to learn to be comfortable in the space between thought and in the space between wondering what it is we're going to say next and analysing what it is that they've just said. And to be comfortable in that conversational space to allow somebody to access their own divinity, access their own wisdom, by you focusing on them long enough to allow their energy to expand into the space. Does that make sense?
Oh, perfect.
By using a technique, and when I was doing it, and I was kind of, being instructed how to kind of create this energetic connection between people as part of spiritual counselling and kind of pastoral care, and I sat there and going, oh, okay, I know what this is. This feels like when I sit for somebody in circle. This feels like when I'm a circle leader and I'm sitting for somebody, and all you're doing is you're allowing that person to be in their fullest expression of themselves. Wonderful. This is really straightforward. Surely everyone knows about this. And that's when it kind of hit home for me, the real gems of spiritual unfoldment, when you're privileged to be part of a kind of faith understanding where you do sit in circle, you sit in the power, you're used to being in that space, between thought, between space, between awareness of physical body, between awareness of what's me and what's my thought and what's my ego and what do I need, and am I hungry and am I fulfilled in my life, and what's she doing next to me, when you're just in that moment of being with spirit. That, to me, when it happened, I thought, okay, I get this now. I get this collectiveness. I understand what is needed now to allow people to, like you said, unpack all of that stuff that they've got, all of that need and want and desire, and just help them unpack it and just sit quietly to let them work it out themselves. Because we are ancient and all-knowing, and we will work it out. We just need to be quiet for long enough to work it out. So for me, it's blending all of the things that we've learned on our spiritual pathway and finding a way to ground it. Like I said, we're human beings having a physical experience. We've got to ground it. And the thing that has been, we've done it instinctively. We've done it over the summer, and it was beautiful to watch it happen. It was beautiful to watch people stop, come to the space of stillness, come to the space of, well, I don't want need, because I can't get. I've just got to be comfortable with what I've got. And actually, what does it matter? Because what's more important is building community. Okay, now I'm in this space and I'm feeling something expanding. We instinctively knew what we had to do, and we had to ground it. What did we do? We went outside. We went outside into nature and started appreciating what was going on. We were finding the way. We were finding the way of our own accord. We didn't need any instruction manual. We were doing what it is that we were meant to be doing. So it's been wonderful to watch that, but it has been very difficult to be, for me, a sensitive person over the summer, because of the amount of holding that's needed for not just the virus and the pandemic and all of the consequences that we keep, like a snowball rolling downhill, seeing more and more consequences of that. But before that, the environmental crisis, as you touched upon, that hasn't gone away. So many inequalities in our world. There's still so much that we've got to do. And one thing that's really fascinating is people coming to their spiritual awakening, some people through what we would call sacred activism, coming in through that route because they're so moved in their heart space, they're so moved by the plight of people that they want to find a way to delve deeper into their own spirituality. So it's interesting how people are kind of coming from lots of different angles into this.
Yeah, I agree wholly. The during the first lockdown, I'm Mr. Organised, there's nothing wrong with spontaneity as long as it's well planned and organised in my book. But I suddenly realised after about a week of I hadn't planned a thing. I just got up and did what I felt was naturally right, and it worked. And I thought, why is it these really big sort of revelations about our spirituality are normally the simplest of things, where we've probably tried to complicate and enhance and embellish different aspects of spiritualism and spirituality in the past. It actually doesn't need any of that. The simplest truths are the most powerful ones. It's just sort of like, I am where I need to be.
Yeah.
It's just astounding. But yes, like yourself, also the sensitives amongst us, also we had that double-edged sword of not only our unfoldment, but also very sensitive to the etheric world as well. And there was so much going on. It was I described it once as like sitting on a beach and all these waves just keep coming in and beating you up every 5 minutes. It was just like, oh, for goodness sake, how much longer will this go on for? Bang, 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 bang. But yeah, true. There are pre this, the pandemic obviously and naturally is swamped our minds, but still, this beautiful world is in trouble, both in the human community and the natural world. And we as spiritual people and understandings need to find exactly what you were talking about, that perfect space, that space within. Because if you're at peace with yourself, you're not going to go out warring with other people. And actually, if you get somebody where you get a debate going on, and unfortunately, in a lot of aspects, people have forgotten the art of debate, where it's the art of the bigger voice or the bigger fist wins the argument. But when you are actually in that perfect state of balance, you can put forward such powerful, powerful words that make people stop because there's nothing there to fight. Yeah. They're expecting a fight. Go on, bring it on, whatever you throw at me, I'm going to fight back with. But when you don't actually throw something at them, you just state it as it is. It's like, hang on, I've got nothing I can react to, but I can listen to your truth. Yeah. And I think that's going to be a big part of our way forward, understanding, interaction with people, is finding that peace within and just being happy with yourself. And then we're just stating things not through any other thing than, well, this is it. This is the energy of the time, and this is where we need to look at. What are we going to do? Interesting.
It's really interesting that it feels like the energy that's around at the moment I'd equate to throat chakra energy, if I can talk about chakras. Because I appreciate that everyone's got kind of is in a different place with it. But it definitely feels like the energy that's around at the moment, which is that kind of speaking truth to power energy. And also, we've seen the cycles of movement. We've seen some really big global shifts. We've seen Me Too movement. We've seen Black Lives Matter movement. We've seen so many opportunities where actually people feel freer to use their voice. And energetically, it feels like we're kind of in that space, that we're moving up. We're moving from the heart space, that being so affected by the plight of the world. And now the energy is rising to the point of now we're speaking out about it. The way my kind of methodology is working, we're so it's interesting, different people's perspective of ascension. But for me, as a complete soul, a complete, perfect, ancient soul, the ascension is our energy rising up. So eventually we're going to get to the point of being in alignment with our intuition and coming from that place of, love, because ego can't exist where there is love and acceptance, because it's the ego that wants to point out the differences and start the arguments and take things personally and create that sense of otherness and separation. And, well, if I'm right, then you can't be right as well. It just doesn't, it can't work if we have worked really hard on ourselves to the point where we know we've done the hard yard. We know what it is that sets us off. We understand what our triggers are. We understand how we respond. We understand how we look when we're in our defense mode, when we're in our attack mode, when we're in our kind of pity party. When we understand all of that, then it makes it easier to have these conversations, kind of have that non-attachment in the outcome. And like you say, just kind of release it and say, I release you with love. That's your path, not mine.
Yeah.
It's tricky. It's tricky.
It is.
Tricky. And in the spiritual world, it can sometimes be tricky not to let ourselves go the other way, which is to bring ourselves to a point of complete superiority. Does that, if I say that, you understand what I mean by that, by kind of spiritual superiority? I'm so evolved, and I have, again, that's just another place the ego is hiding to make us separate and more superior than anyone else. It's just all the same. It's just a different, it's just wrapped up differently. It's a really tricky space to be really honest. And like I said, I'm really refreshed at the moment that there's so many people in and around us that are prepared to have these conversations. And to deal with it. And that, again, I think we're very lucky that we're one of the few faiths that doesn't flinch away from that doesn't kind of absolve everything, doesn't put everything into the hereafter. It's all going to be sorted out when we get to heaven, or wherever it is that faith believes that we're going, that actually say, no, we need to look at this now.
Very true. And also some of the faith teachings that, it's going to be in the hereafter, and it's going to be somebody else's decision what happens to us. When actually it's not, it's us. Every day we are weaving our soul path. And one day we're going to have to look at the threads, and do we need to unpick any? Because we can't just cut them. We can't just leave them behind. They become part and parcel of us. And I like what you said about the superiority. My phraseology of that aspect is, we've got to be detached. We've got to be of the world, but not in this world, which I know is a very old saying, but takes on greater meanings, because we can't drift away either and become this ephemeral being of light with no attachment to the earth, because you are a physical body. You are part of the earth. You are part of the complete makeup of everything that lives on this world. But by using that link with the divine within yourself and finding that space of not judgmental, no ego, as you so well put, leaving that behind, the question of being right, my philosophy on that for the last few years is, I won't say I'm right, but I will say I'm right for me at this time. Because if I say I'm right, automatically I'm saying other people are wrong. But where I am is right for me at this time, and that's no challenge there to anybody to prove me otherwise. It just is.
Yeah, absolutely.
A few questions coming in here.
Sorry, do you know what? I forgot that there. Hello to everyone there. I forgot. I love having chats with you, Laurie. I do like having this chat is good. See, I told you I wasn't the person to take to a cocktail party.
But this is a wonderful thing that, also within spiritualism, it encourages debate. Sadly, we do see sometimes the discourse going on within our own movement and with our teachings and understandings. It's sort of like tenfold the effect when you see people falling out and embattling each other. You just think, really? Have you not learned anything in the last 5 years you've been in this movement? Because that's saying to me, no, I haven't. But anyway, put that away. Off you go. So all the way from sunny America in Philadelphia. So how do you deal with the fatigue that comes from being sensitive to certain energies?
What an amazing question. Hello to Joan. I hope that you're okay. Yeah, my goodness, you have some some big energies going on over there right now. Okay, so me personally, I'm coming from where I'm coming from, and everyone will be completely different. So I am very sensitive to other people's energy, and also I'm not that great at I'm not that great at kind of recognizing sometimes when that's happening. So as I said earlier, I've got to really work on. I have really worked on being more in touch with my energetic, my physical body energy, and the way that I do that is by embracing being outside in nature. And I know you've probably heard this a million times, and every single person that seems to be talking on the internet and every book telling you to do that. And the reason for that is because, you know, there's a good reason why in certain icons and statues of the Buddha, he's got one hand in a prayer pose and one hand touching the earth. And the reason why is because we have to ground this energy. We have to be of the earth. So for me, it's being outside in nature. I especially find being near water especially helpful for me because I tend to operate in that energetic, emotional space. So for me, being by water is really helpful. Also, when we're in nature, we can only ever be in the present moment. And when you're seeing a beautiful sunrise or you're watching a leaf slowly spiral to the ground, in that moment, nothing else exists other than what you're experiencing, which is why children love being in nature so much, because they're completely absorbed with what they're doing. So if you are going to go for a walk in nature, I would advise you not to put your headphones in. Don't listen to meditations, you know, as you're walking along. Don't talk on the phone. Just be in the present moment in nature, because that is going to be very restful for you. Reading is great and meditation is great, but find the right kind of meditation for you. Find the right kind of relaxation for you, because certain types of meditation might be too stimulating for you. Kind of visualizations, taking you on great long journeys might not be right. Laurie does a lovely meditation on a Monday with loads of different types of things to kind of carry you along. So try and see what works to you as well. It's really interesting when we're looking at this kind of spiritual awakening, which is something I'm kind of looking at in a lot more detail at the moment, just to kind of get us ready for going into the winter, going into the fact that we're not going to be able to go outside as much as we could during the summer, and trying to help people who are sensitive to this to find a way to operate at their optimum as we're going into some very intense emotional time. We're going into Christmas, you know, certainly for anyone, Christmas is really emotionally intense. There's an awful lot of expectation, as well as dealing with everything else that's going on. So if you're going through any kind of spiritual awakening, listening to your body, making sure you're sleeping plenty is really important. And you may find that you end up just isolating yourself away from people whose energy isn't compatible to you. And that's in no way saying, you know, being very conscious of the ego mind, it's not saying that you're better than them or they're not right for you. But you can quite honestly say, speaking from your truth, that you just need some time to be and do that. That's the best answer I can give you, but I will be putting a load of information out about this to kind of help. Certainly for me, it was very extreme because got very, very energetically depleted really quickly, that I would basically be in bed, get home, you kind of put it all into your day, and then you get home and you just collapse and you're in bed. So just kind of watch for activities that you do that numb yourself as well, because the flip side to being very highly sensitized is that we can sometimes look for ways to numb ourselves out. And we don't always do that through traditional means of, you know, having a glass of wine or anything else that you choose to do, but we can numb ourselves out through shopping. We can numb ourselves out through watching trashy TV all the time. We can numb ourselves out by being in the internet, which is a place of instant stimulation. So just kind of watch for when you're kind of tipping maybe one side too far or the other. But that's a great question, Joan. Literally, I could go on. That's a great question. Thank you.
Yeah.
What's your have you got any thoughts on that, Laurie?
I'll revert back to my my current. I seem to go through phases with my philosophy and my understanding, and one that came to mind probably about 3 months ago, and I've used it when the occasion's right, is this exercise of, in here is my world, and everything in there is the things that I can change, the things that I can affect. If it's not in this world, if I can't change it, if I can't affect it, it's outside of my world, and I have to let it go. Because, you know, I've stopped watching the news, especially the morning news, because I did find I was watching the morning news. My days were getting really too energetic, and on not a good energy as well, because of all that input of all these negative things. And I'm like, I can't do anything about that. Well, I can actually. I can turn it off.
Oh yeah,
and just leave it.
absolutely.
And
I call
once,
it good spiritual hygiene. You are the master of what goes in here and what goes
yeah,
in here.
yeah,
So be in control of that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That is. It sounds a bit trite to people, but believe you me, it's not, because you do look in depth at things. You do start to be, and you become aware of the things, as you were saying about the numbing things or the things that adversely affect you. And as you examine each little part of your life and each part of your day and each part of your meetings with people, and they will start to highlight, and you go, okay, well, there's something going on here with that energy and it's not good. So can I change the way I interact with that? If not, can I pull back from? But you're constantly moving then. We've got to be moving. We are of motion. We are of water. We are of emotion. So it is a very mobile, energetic environment which sustains us.
Yeah.
So, yeah, lovely question, Joan.
Thank you.
Right. Ooh. True peace with oneself. True peace with oneself. Actually, I won't even go any further into that statement. Yeah, that is a very good, easy saying to try to master. And in agreement there about grounding yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, use the low sun. Any of these imagery or music or something to focus on. Yeah. Thank you,
Beautiful.
Tatiana.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, hello, Helen. My lovely friend Helen. Oh, she's come by cyberspace to Paul. Welcome, Helen. Welcome to Paul. How do you put it? Okay, so it's about getting ourselves match fit, energetically match fit for this one. And there's some amazing speakers who the ascension is their absolute bread and butter, and they're about kind of getting ourselves energetically ready and getting ourselves kind of in peak spiritual condition ready for it. But I suppose for me, I take a slightly different view, and I've already kind of articulated my take on it, which is it's a personal growth ascension. This is our personal pathway of moving our energy. If we kind of think about the chakras and think about the colors, and it kind of relating to that hierarchy of needs that we've got, that at our most primal level, which is why this lockdown has knocked us for six, because we've moved so far down the pyramid. We're back at, do I have a job? Is my job secure? Are my family going to be safe? Will I be here next year? Will people I know and love be safe and well? We're right down at the bottom of that pyramid, really in that kind of sacral space. So for me, this whole process is moving our energy up, getting up, creating these building blocks of knowing what our spiritual purpose is and being comfortable in our gifts, expressing our gifts to the world, moving into the heart space, connecting out with the planet, connecting with people in need, finding that cause that really moves your soul, whether that is food poverty. We've seen footballers doing some amazing, incredible things because they're so moved by stories that resonate to them. So what I would say is, if you're looking for something that's going to really get you moving, and when I think about ascension, I think about our own spiritual evolution, but also our evolution as people moving out into the world. And I don't think of the ascension as an energetic gateway that will open, and this is my understanding completely, because I'm not a scholar in this, that will open and then all of this information will stream into the world and it was spontaneous awakening. I see it as an individual process. Each individual person is being so moved by the things that are going on in the world that they are compelled to find a better way. And by doing that, we start reaching out and finding things that move us. But to do that, we have to be knowing who we are, knowing what we're about, able to recognize our spiritual gifts when we see them or when we come across them, being attuned with our community and the people that are around us, understanding how to sit quietly in that space between thought, knowing how to replenish our own physical energy, understanding when our energy is out of kilter and what we need to do to rectify that. And then finally, appreciating that we have this connection to the divine that can never be broken. I mean, if every single person on the planet could do that, oh my goodness, we can't even imagine the kind of world that we would live in. So that's how I would say to start to prepare, Helen. Find those things that drive you to sacred activism whilst respecting and caring and nurturing for this physical vessel.
Yeah, agree totally there. I find it deeply distressing, some of these WWF adverts. My response is, we don't deserve this world. You know, when you see these species going out of existence because we need to hunt something for sport. You know, if I didn't have this work here with the church and everything, I do have a very strong feeling that I might be up a mountain somewhere in Siberia chasing hunters off, and that would be my personal part of the ascension. That would be my focus. And, you know, this is it with the ascension. Look into this world. There is so much that we can do, but we can't do everything.
No.
And I think that sometimes we get a little bit, we swamp ourselves because we see need everywhere. And with that maternal energy, we want to mother and say they're there, but we you know, we can't do everything, and that's fine. You know, we're in a world of how many? 8 billion people. So why do we need to do everything? We've got 8 billion people out there, potential, to focus on that thing that they say, actually, no, this needs to improve. This needs to be brought back. This needs to be mended. This needs to be made better. This needs to be made less aggressive. So yeah,
but we can all do something. But we can all do something.
Exactly,
and that's the thing. And it's not to allow, again, our ego mind to say this is too big and you're too small. This is someone else's problem, waiting for whoever it is, you know, Big Brother to come along and fix it. And we're moving out of that. We're moving out of the government needs to do something. And actually, we've seen, haven't we, over the last couple of years, that this is about, oh, hang on, we're the people. Oh, okay, we're the people that have to do this.
Yeah.
We're the people that have to find something, no matter how small it is, finding that thing that kind of moves you and opens you up to the possibility of connectedness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very true. Here we go. Lovely Sue Townsend.
Hello, lovely Sue. Oh, beautiful. Yes to that. Yeah, judgment. And it's interesting, isn't it, how over the summer, it's very easy to fall into judgment. And it's one of the things that, you know, I've done much unpacking, and I'm very comfortable with a lot of the defenses that I throw up. And judgment is, you know, I absolutely own that. Self-judgment, judgment, it's very easy to do that. And it's very easy to throw judgment out there, isn't it? When we see something which is, you know, toilet roll. Judging people over hoarding toilet roll, there was judgment there. And where judgment is, love can't live. It just can't operate in the same space. So it's really tricky, and it's sending love and compassion, you know, and I was really being very mindful to send compassion to those people, to say that they're so in fear that they're going into their fight or flight response, where they're thinking that they're an individual person and it's them against the world. And if they have, then it means that they won't run out. So I have to be really compassionate to that. They're operating from a fear response, and send love to them, that they find a way of recognizing that they are not alone. And that's all we can do, isn't it, with that?
Yeah.
Beautiful, Sue.
There's an advert, and it chills me when it comes on. I can't remember who it was or what it was about. About on the naughty list or whatever it was. And one person says, well, I didn't contribute to Captain Tom's calls. And then you have about 5 people going like that. And I think, God, that is an awful energy to put out. I find that deeply disturbing, actually, from the energetic side of it. you know, because one person didn't do what the mass did, they are totally in the wrong, you know, and you just think, what on earth are you pushing out into our society with, you know, underlying currents like that, it's right to judge because we're right, because therefore it's the ego speaking.
It's hard. Yeah.
It is very difficult.
Yeah.
So where else are
Yes.
we? I saw one there from a lovely gentleman. Where are you? Disappeared. Mark. All right, there we go. Mark Bucknell.
Hi, Mark. Going through a rebirth or awakening by the energies going on. Yeah. My goodness. Well, this is the time, isn't it, Mark? So rebirth or awakening, yeah, it's a massive subject. So kind of the symptoms of spiritual awakening would be different for each person, and the whole subject of spiritual awakening, again, we've got to be really careful not to pack too many levels into it. Be really careful with our language, because for some people, spiritual awakening, and I love that meme that goes around on Facebook that's got the picture of someone going down a roller coaster with like what I thought spiritual awakening would be like, and then what it actually is. And you see them hurtling down so for me, the different experiences I had, which were my kind of spiritualizing moments, were definitely not sat on a yoga mat. Definitely feeling like that was it, and I was really struggling to kind of contemplate what I was going to do next. So be really gentle with yourself, Mark. The awakening energies that are going on around you, just give yourself some space to take time and just appreciate what is going on. If I may, Laurie, I'm going to send you a link or put one on here, because I'm just putting something out there which is to help people, primarily because there's so many people that are going through exactly the same thing as you at the moment, in the midst of all of this, and a lot of people coming to this conclusion very quickly, that they feel compelled to do something and wanting to know the best thing to do. So I will send that to you.
Yeah, please do.
But yeah, be kind to yourself, Mark.
It is. You've got to be kind to yourself. I've likened it to it's like an onion with many layers, and also the side effects. For some of them make you cry. But you got to remember, it's all part of you, because the awakening moment, to me, starts with you. Yeah. And sometimes a lot of this sorrow we feel is because we're just finding things about ourselves that we weren't really aware of. Because if we're not grounded and centered and whole, everything we do will be affected by that lack of stability there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think with this ascension and awakening thing, is the first step is being honest. I've said this phrase a few times, and I've heard other people start to say it now. You know, we've got to grow up. We've got to stop hiding behind things that we're so used to doing. We are going to find it harder to turn our head away when we see these terrible images on the TV, be it of the planet, be it of the natural world, be it of people, and actually start to take that on board as, you know, what's going wrong there actually is part of me here, and what can I do about it? Absolutely.
But you're definitely in the right place, Mark. You know, take heart in the fact that you're within a spiritual community. So you have your tribe. I don't really like the term tribe because it's kind of been a bit overused by social media. But you have your band of spiritual community around you. So you're in the right place. You know, take heart in that you're not having this experience as somebody by themselves who's never really had. Because spiritual awakenings can happen to people who would never have described themselves as spiritual, which is the really interesting thing about it, where it's just like an instantaneous thing, or it's a kind of a slow burner. So take heart in the fact that you're in the right place, and that you're talking to spiritualists and people who are really comfortable with meditation and sitting and healing and contemplation and all of those other things that are gonna help you. And just, it's eternal progress, isn't it? We're always in a cycle, we're in a spiral, always moving forward. We never sit still, I'm afraid.
Yep, very, very true.
Super.
One very quick question, not a question, but interesting, actually, interests me. has just come up.
Hi, Jenny. Hi, Jennifer. Hi. That sounds like it's, well, fear-based, and I think it's interesting. I don't know if Joan's still on, but a lot of it is fear. A lot of it is fear and separation, isn't it? Spiritual awakenings aren't clear-cut, and I think that's the thing that's a bit of a misconception, certainly from my experience, is it's not clear-cut, and when it's happening to you, you don't know it's happening to you. So it will look like fear and like aggression and anger, and you feel like your emotions are out of control, and you have this rage, this rage that boils up, this sense of injustice, and why is this happening? And I thought I had it all sorted. So, you know, everything that's happened outside is a macrocosm of what's happening to us inside, and vice versa. So we just have to send a lot of healing to them. They're going through this. Alchemy is a word I love, because alchemy to me has got all of that mystical quality to it. They're going for a big transformation over there. We have to be really kind and sympathetic, and again, know that everyone's coming from their own place of feeling they're right. And so there's going to be no winners in that situation. We just have to send our love and hope that everything is as it should be, and just hope and pray that that is the conclusion everyone else over there comes to. And that's what we can do. You know, I say that my most powerful spiritual tool is a candle.
Yeah.
Because when you introduce a candle into a space, it gives you something to focus on. It gives you an opportunity to create sacred space. So if we all did that and kind of lit a candle and sent healing out to the divine intelligence of the spirit world and God to take it where it's needed. Yeah, but it's a worrying time. We're a mythic ground. We're kind of in that time of, this is our time. I think that adds to it. That adds to some of the pressure that we might feel as spiritual people, as sensitive people, that all of a sudden we know that actually the world is looking at us.
Yeah.
And it's down to us. Yeah.
Very true. And so I did pick on that because that's something that's been in my mind as well. But this spiritual awakening, those who, you know, and I'm not putting this into levels of who's right, who's wrong, or whatever. It's just a factual discussion on an overview. Those of us who are open to spirituality, who are open to a higher consciousness, who are open to a God, spirit, whatever, but we are open to something more than we are as human beings here. We are finding this time interesting, but we must remember not everybody is. And the people now that don't have any belief system, faith system, or anything to support them are going through the same process as we're going through, but they've got nothing to relate it to. They've got nothing to learn from. They've got nobody to turn through, but they are starting to feel that upheaval and that emotion. And as I say, about going back to self, because we all bring things back to self. And this is where this unfoldment, for want of a better word, can become a negative influence in the long run, in the future, in a time. It will be of a positive, but at the moment, people are becoming aware of things, but they've got no faith, they've got no understanding, or their faith is contradictory to what they're feeling. And that can impose a huge self-turmoil in the mind of people. And this is what we're seeing, and especially in the very material countries. This one of the interesting side effects with the virus is the more materialistic a country is, the greater it's being damaged, because there was no room for spirituality. That was not supported, it wasn't enhanced, it wasn't promoted. So yeah, and you know, to please anybody, don't think I'm being challenging, nasty, or whatever. It's just my understanding of things, and the energy I'm saying it in is just to be shared. If you find it inspiring, great. If you don't find it inspiring and challenging, actually, great. Because, you know, through debate, through discussion, through talks like this, we grow, and sometimes growth is a bit painful.
Yeah, it is. You're right. I wonder, Laurie, to that, if I could speak to that by reading something which
Please. Yeah.
was written by Martin Shaw, and he's a really big inspirer of mine. And he wrote something just at the start of the pandemic, and I think it still holds water now. And I think it kind of, I turned to it because when I heard it, I had one of those stop me in my tracks moment, and I thought, I have to find who this person is. This is by Martin Shaw, and he wrote it in March this year. And he says, in Siberian myth, when you want to hurt someone, you crawl into their tent and you close the smoke hole. That way, God can't see them. Close the smoke hole and you break the connection to the divine world, to the mountains, to the rivers, and to the trees. If you close the smoke hole, we become mad. Close the smoke hole and we become possessed by ourselves and only ourselves. Close the smoke hole and you only have your own neurosis for company. Well, enough of that. Come on, we're grown-ups. We're spiritual people. Let's take a breath. We may have to seek solitude, but let's not isolate from the marvelous things in this world. High alert is the nature of this moment, and rightly so. But I do not intend to lose the reality that as a culture, we are entering deeply mythic ground. Am I forgetting business as usual? No great story begins like that. But what needs to change? What kindness in me have I so abandoned that I could seek relationship with again? It is useful to inspect my ruin. Could I strike up a relationship with my soul again? You don't need me to tell you how to keep your smoke hole open. You have a myriad of ways. We are awash with the power of words: virus, isolate, crisis, pandemic. And they're pointing towards very real things. And to some degree, we need the harassment of them. But do they grow corn on your tongue when you speak them? Where is the beauty making in that? The absolute heft of grief may well be the weave to your prayer mat. But before we burn down the whole world in the rage of the climate emergency, protests and lockdown, and our ever-increasing division, could we collectively seek vigil in this moment and cry for a vision, the way that communities have always done, and we need to do it together now?
Yeah, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Ashley, lovely. Thank you so much. Yeah, wonderful evening.
Lovely.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody at home that's joined us tonight. Been an absolute joy and a pleasure. Tomorrow night, we have an additional evening. We have Ewan Irvin from Edinburgh. He's associated with the Arthur Conan Doyle Centre. He's going to be talking about spiritualism and mediumship of today, and how the evolution is kicking in, and looking to the future as well on enhancements and opening ourselves up to the possibility of a more active approach within the world. So that's tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. On Saturday night, also at 7 o'clock, we have Marion Damper Jeans. She is Danish by birth, but she lives in London, and she'll be giving us a talk. She's been in spiritualism quite some time. A very gregarious character, a well-known authoress in the Nordic countries as well. So looking forward to hearing her story on Saturday night. Then on Sunday at 3 o'clock, we have a divine service, which will be broadcast on Zoom. So those of you wishing to join in and be an active part of the service, please just go to the church Facebook page on the events, where you will find the Zoom room link. Doors open at 2:45, and we will be locking the service once the service has commenced. So you find the link there, and that's with lovely Wendy Wharton. Next Thursday at 7 o'clock, our third program on aspects of spiritualism. We're going to be joined by Brian Robertson, who jointly runs the Inner Quest Foundation over in Canada, and co-author of the book Magician to Mystic. So, yeah, busy week. Who's in lockdown? I'm not in lockdown. I'm running around like a mad thing here. But thank you for joining us, Ashley. Absolute delight. You know what? Your philosophy and your way of talking. Yeah, you've got a lot of work ahead of you, but what joyous work. How blessed are you? Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Super.
So we should say good night, everybody. Good night.
Thank you, Laurie. Thank you, everybody. Bye.